Paris in the fall, the last months of the year and the end of the millennium. The city holds many memories for me, of cafes, of music, of love, and of death. As I picked myself up, all I could hear was the ceaseless drone of traffic. Life went on around me. But the explosion was to change my life forever.
Hey everyone, this is Magnetic Pastry back again, and I'm playing probably one of my favorite games of all time. This is Broken Sword, The Shadow of the Templars, or as known in the US, The Circle of Blood. This is one of, in my opinion, the best point-and-click games I've ever played. One of the few, but still, I would say it is definitely one of the best. And just, as you can see from that intro, which was very long, it was about like 2 minutes, that was an amazing thing. This was released in 1996 on PC, and that cutscene, it was a very long cutscene, but it set the story, I think, quite well, and it showed you some things you may have to remember at this small point in the game, because that cutscene wasn't just for the sake of being a cutscene. It was also poignant, because it also gave you information about what just happened. Because if you just woke up like this without that cutscene, you would have no idea what was going on. That cutscene showed you just what happened, as you saw. This is our main character, George Stobart, who is an American... oh, I can't remember what he is actually. I think he's... well, he knows law, I know that. I think he might be a lawyer, I don't know. But he's... and he's in holiday in Paris. This is Paris. And he's standing here, and you can... obviously it's a point and click, so you can click and move him around. And also you have to interact with certain objects. As you can see, I have different cursors depending on what I'm on. I've got a normal mouse for just clicking to places. I've got... that's a hand pointing for me, and that's meaning that I can go through the door there. Then I've got a magnifying glass, which means he wants to look at that. Let's see, I've got a magnifying glass here. I've got a pickup item, so that's showing that there's an item on the ground that I can pick up that newspaper. And that is a... I don't know what you call that. It's kind of like a use item, or a kind of mechanical thing. Like if you see that, then it usually means that you're needing to use it in some aspect. But anyway. Now, there are 3 things you can do here. I'll just move over here to show them better to you. Now, as you saw in the cutscene, the clown escaped through... Well, actually, I can't see very well because that damn tree's in the way. No, 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 no. God damn it. No. The, move that way, goddamn. Move. There we go. As you can see, well, as you remember from the cutscene, the clown went through this way over here. It went through this alleyway. Now, there are 3 ways you can go. You can follow the clown, you can go down the street, or you can go in the cafe. Now, it doesn't really matter which way you go. You can go either way. Each way will give you the same outcome, but I think the best possible way to go is probably... Well, it makes more sense. If you were George, then you would probably go after the clown. Or, well, it depends. Would you go after the clown? Would you go for help? Or would you see if anyone was still alive? I think that, for the sake of this, I will do what I usually do, and check if anyone's alive. So, I'm going to go into the cafe first. I didn't pick up the newspaper, but I'll get that later. So you can see it's a bit of a mess. Everything's been blown up, although, considering all the glass blew up, I'm surprised it's not in worse shape. And plus, like, is everyone else dead then? Because, I mean, there's the waitress, who is you can talk to, and there doesn't seem to be a barman, and all the lights. And, as you can see, here's the man we saw before. So this is the first action in the game, to check the old man's dead body.
It was the body of the old man.
Now,
It was hard to believe I'd seen him alive only minutes before.
I should probably explain this too, that when you have an action, there are 2 things you can do. You can either left click or right click. Right clicking gives you a general, like for example with the magnifying glass icon, it gives you a general overview of what the thing is. And a left click gives you a more detailed look at the person. For example, with this one, as you just saw, he just looked at the old man and saw like that he was a body and he was dead. But if you look closer, then we rob him. Yes, he just rifles through his
I
pockets.
tried not to meet his stare as I searched the dead man.
Yeah, you should feel ashamed, George.
No
Stealing
wallet,
from old
no
men.
papers, no credit cards. The guy's past was a blank page.
Do you think that if George had found credit cards, he would have taken them? Because he takes a lot of stuff. And actually, that's another thing I should explain. You're probably wondering why I've got these black bars at the side of the video. Well, this one at the bottom isn't useful just now, but this one at the top is your inventory. As you can see, I've got nothing in my inventory just now because for some reason George isn't carrying anything, or maybe he just does carry things, but you're just not access to them. And that's yeah. And the bottom one, I am not using that, but I will be using in a second, and that's for talking to people. So when you've got conversation, you'll have the conversation items at the bottom. So first, I'm going to have a look at this young lady.
The pretty young waitress was unconscious.
Surprised he doesn't even know her name. And there's a bottle on the counter.
A mysteriously undamaged bottle of spirit stood on the bar.
I think that's so funny. A mysteriously undamaged bottle, which is because it's there as a prop. Because you can choose to use that in a second. But it's so strange that everything else is blown up. Yet there's a bottle on the counter that's completely fine. That suggests that that it was maybe behind the bar, and the waitress before she collapsed picked it up and then collapsed or something. But I don't know. So I'm gonna talk to this young lady and accost her violently. No, because I mean she's unconscious. Oh no, he is accosting her. No, he's just propping her up on. Ooh, groped feel. Anyway, cupped feel. Anyway, she's awake, but she's got a headache because she drank too much.
Oh, my head.
Actually, she actually thinks she's drunk too much, which is funny.
How much vodka did I drink? Oh, no, don't tell me. What is your name, Shelley?
George Stobart, ma'am.
Oh, American.
She asked the question quite innocently, but I could
Yeah,
sense her
because they're quite
reserve.
racist.
It was something
It's
which
true,
seemed to
I mean-
afflict all Europeans.
Yeah.
You look like you could use a little help.
I could use a little drink. I feel sick, dizzy, and bruised. I don't even remember the party.
Just
She
relax.
leads a crazy life.
You've been knocked out.
You don't say. What happened?
There's been an explosion. You should try not to move.
Are you a doctor?
So actually, this is the first instance of something we can choose. This is a down thumb and an up thumb. Basically, up thumb I'm agreeing, saying yes I am a doctor. Down thumb saying I'm not a doctor. Now I'm going to tell the truth here and say I'm not a doctor. It doesn't really matter. I'll explain later, but up to a point it doesn't really matter what you do. So no, I'm not a doctor.
No, but I used to play hospitals when I was a kid.
Wow, that's
Can you
crazy.
remember anything at all?
I think George is so...
I need
wow.
a drink. Pour me a brandy.
And again, you can choose. You can choose to give her a brandy or not. Now, I usually choose... we could get the bitch drunk, but I think that it's probably best we don't, because if you do, then you have to kind of face some uncomfortable questions later, because something happens later and people come into here and then they ask, why is she drunk? And also, if you give the brandy, she doesn't remember you, and that's a big thing. She doesn't remember who you are. So, yeah, so I'm just going to say no, which I'm loathed to doing, but no, you can't have a brandy. You've just had an accident. I know it'll calm you down, but you need to be ready to answer questions for the police.
You could be in shock. No alcohol.
No for you.
What about the old man? Is he dead?
Now, this is another choice. Basically, all of this is choices. If you say no, then you get to talk to her further, but she doesn't say actually anything interesting. Or you can say he is, and she'll faint, because she's a woman. So, because I didn't get to give her brandy and make her drunk, I'm going to make her faint.
Yes, he is.
Ah, mon Dieu.
Wow. And she falls into the exact same place where she was before. And if you look at her again,
Pretty young waitress was unconscious.
it just says she's unconscious. But if you try and talk to her, it's so funny.
She didn't respond. If I wanted another cappuccino, I'd have to serve myself.
Oh. But yeah, that's really funny. And I think if you keep talking to her, it says,
Hey, wake up.
he's just like, yeah, wake up. You haven't had it that bad. Yeah, you were in the explosion, so what? Anyway, there's nothing you can search for that guy, and that's all you can actually do in here. I think if you look at the brandy closely, something, maybe?
I needed a stiff drink, but I hated the taste of brandy.
How can you hate the taste of brandy? Brandy's lovely. Anyway, so that's all you can do in this cafe. So, before I go, I'm just going to pick this up. The music can be loud sometimes, it's annoying. Pick up the newspaper. What day is it today?
The leading article referred to the visit of a Nobel Prize winner from some unpronounceable Eastern European state. That was the only news story. The rest was rumor, gossip, and sensationalism. Then I noticed the
Just like
writing
every
at the
paper.
foot of the page. It read Salah ad-Din, 1345.
It's never really said whose paper that is, because George wasn't, I don't think, reading a paper. So, anyway. Okay, one thing I should explain, probably before I cut off, just to stop any questions that come about this part before I release the next one. This, as you probably tell if you've played Broken Sword, is not the Director's Cut version. This is the original 1996 version. The Director's Cut wasn't bad by any means, it's actually very good. But I decided I wanted to record the original version, one, because I own it, and two, because the Director's Cut, the main difference is that before this first scene, there's but maybe 4 or 5 scenes where you play as another main character, who you'll meet actually probably in the next episode. And for me, well, I didn't own the game myself, so I own this version, but I wanted to show this version because I think that this version makes you focus more on George than the Director's Cut. The Director's Cut is good if you've already played the games, but if you haven't, it's best to play this version because then you focus on George as a character, and you develop him further in your mind anyway. You get closer to him because you play him throughout the rest of the games. Although, in the next one, you do play as 2 characters. But I think it's best in this one, you just play as 1 character to focus yourself on George as a character. But anyway, I'm getting a bit deep with the plot here. So, well, that's me. I think that's enough for one video. So, next time we will be going and, well, going through this alleyway to see if we can find the clown. Okay? See you guys then.